one of the first things you always go back to is, what's the learning objective? What are the 3 learning points I'm hoping the students take away from? And in some ways I set that almost as my thesis for the class, and I build my preparation backwards from that. What I do in preparing a case is actually 2 forms of preparation. The first one is I sort of create a narrative for the class. How do I want to go through it? How am I going to start the case? I think about, am I going to start the case by asking a student for what would you do if you were the protagonist in this case? Sometimes if it's a setting they're less familiar with, for example in Canada, when I'm doing a case in India, if it's one of the early cases, I'll ask people who's had experience in India so they understand the differences in the business environment in India and Canada. So you decide your opening, sort of a 5 or 10 minutes, and then the narrative of how do you go through the questions, how do you build a case, always leading towards those 3 sort of final takeaways. When you come through that process, you end up with I usually end up with a 4 or 5 page script of how I plan to go through class. Then what I do is I turn it into a board plan. I look at the boards that I have in my classroom, and I have to do this for every class that I'm teaching because the boards are different. How is that going to look on the boards when I take down students' notes? What am I looking for? And it allows me to make sure that the most important parts of the discussion are brought out and shown to the students in a logical fashion, given the room that we're working in.